Hello there. I hope you guys are all doing well today. Recently, the subject of white men and Wizards of the Coast has had a bright light shined on it by the comments of D&D executive producer Kyle Brink. In case you don't know, he said, rather shockingly, in an interview, that white men cannot leave the D&D hobby fast enough. Now, whether he meant the hobby in general or leave the production of material for D&D is sort of immaterial, don't you think? It was an eye-opening statement, one that Wizards has yet to address. After that, I started to take a closer look under the rocks, as it were, at the creators that Wizards is utilizing these days. Rather dismayingly, I found a den of snakes being nurtured by the company. Every tweet that you see in this video is from someone that Wizards has utilized on a flagship product released within the last year. And by the way, I saved the best for last. So please stick around to the end of the video for the madness that is Sarah Madsen. Wizards is now paying people to write material who have a healthy, I would say, hatred for a lot of D&D gamers, core gamers. It's certainly true that the traditional D&D customer base is shifting in recent years. To a point, there are more women and minorities entering the hobby, thanks in part to Critical Role and the COVID lockdown. And you know what? That's just fine. But when I ran my first regular group in the 90s, it consisted of 3 women and 2 men. We never screamed from the rooftops how progressive we all were. It was just the way it was. If you can play, you're welcome, period. It's always been like that. And it's probably been like that for most of the groups out there. Let's not misunderstand here either. When you go to your local game store and see the games played there, when you go to a convention like Gen Con, you will be quickly disavowed of the notion that white men have been somehow supplanted from the hobby. They still make up, at a minimum, the plurality of gamers out there, if not an outright majority, and probably will for the foreseeable future. The tweet you saw in the introduction was from Dominique Dickey, formerly of Monty Cook Games, and writer of one of the adventures in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. As you saw, she will not write a character who is white because, well, if I had to guess, she does not seem to like white people. At least not white men. I'm not sure why, as it seems like she got a lot of opportunity from white people. And perhaps that's something that she resents. But her ideology, her casual racism that's embodied in her tweets is endorsed by Wizards of the Coast. It doesn't seem like they've said anything, at least publicly. Now, Keys from the Golden Vault was just released, and it employs a few people who have made statements that are very dismissive or hostile, based again solely on race. Iranian-American Justice Rahman Arman is, I think, the new golden child employed at Wizards of the Coast. But as you can see, he has no problem painting white men with broad brushstrokes. And here he is complaining about surveys that don't have his specific ethnicity on it, stating that growing up in a white home is a very different experience than he supposedly had. I'd like to know what white homes he's referring to. The mansions in the Hollywood Hills filled by celebrities who espouse the same leftism that he does? Or the dirt-poor shacks in rural Appalachia, filled with people that folks like Justice probably write off as flyover country hicks. I'd like to point out, too, that Justice is a hero of one of Wizards of the Coast's YouTube shills, Bob the World Builder, who in a recent video sung the praises of Justice. And I'm not sure that's the kind of guy whose praises should be sung.
It would be so cool just to meet that guy in person. It's Justice Armin. It's Justice Armin. He's a cool guy. He's super funny on Twitter. You should follow him.
Wizards of the Coast is also breaking new grounds in diversity by employing self-proclaimed autistic people who spew vile, race-baiting garbage. This in the form of Mackenzie de Armas. And by the way, I think we need to designate a new class of autism for people that constantly use it as a flexing point on Twitter, don't you? They used to just be called jerks, maybe in the old days. Perhaps we could start doing that again. Mackenzie is someone who played her first D&D game in mid-2018. She is now a lead game designer at Wizards and contributed to Keys from the Golden Vault. Before that, she worked on a mental health adventure called I've Been, as well as an Emmy award-winning, and I am not lying here, magical candy supplement called Gnarls Candy. Mackenzie also likes to keep things real, as you can see, by giving her tiefling a case of Vitiglio. I don't know. I hope the party's cleric prayed for that Opzilora spell overnight. When she's not bragging about her autism on Twitter or trying to turn D&D into an Adventure Time episode, Mackenzie, of course, likes to take her shots at white guys. Well, hey, at least she got that one Star Wars trivia win over some poor dope. This chick is holding on to that harder than Uncle Rico held on to his playing days. And just like all the others, this sort of racism is endorsed by Wizards of the Coast. There are some others, too. Here's Sadie Lowry, also on the Golden Vault, lamenting that white authors get published over and over. She's a white author, and she just got published. Could she not have stepped aside? Makes you wonder. Gets the old noggin joggin', as our old friend Mr. Mediker says. And no mention whether or not those places by white authors were earned by merit. I'm willing to bet that they probably were. It's just enough for her that white people get published. White people like her. Now here's our old friend Chris Perkins, who is the lead editor. And he seems to only hate white GOP men. He has a real case of Trump derangement syndrome, too. So, hey, I guess he's a little racist, but he only hates roughly 50% of the men out there. I guess we'll call that progress here. There's also Dan Dillon, who came to Wizards of the Coast from Kobold Press. And he seems to yammer on a lot about white supremacy. And like Chris Pramus, he also seems to have a healthy dose of Trump derangement syndrome. Here he is bizarrely trying to find the secret Hitler code in one of Trump's tweets. And they call other people conspiracy theorists. Unbelievable. And now, last but not least, we come to Sarah Madsen, who also worked on Keys from the Golden Vault, I believe as a contractor. I don't think she's an employee, at least not yet. But she is the type of person that Wizards values. She has experience from Cubicle 7 and Kobold Press. It seems Kobold Press produces, per capita, quite a few of these folks, doesn't it? I don't know, you guys let me know in the comments below if I'm off base there. Sarah seems to have a real vitriol for white men. It was hard at times to untangle the crazy from her Twitter feed. But after a while, it was clear that she was a pretty vindictive woman. Here she is, designating children. Children she labels as white trash children. What a class act, huh? And despite apparently living in northern Georgia, she apparently does not like her community at all. And if you are at Starbucks and you see this chick, get ready to be tweeted about. This woman apparently has nothing better to do than shit out terrible RPG material while she eavesdrops on your conversation at Starbucks. She's like some updated demonic version of Gladys Kravitz from Bewitched. Abner, the white boys are talking economics again. Abner. Honestly, the problem with Sarah is that there was too much to work with. It was like a fire hose of racist idiocy. Now, one thing I do like about Sarah, though, is that at times she will identify herself for the poisonous, blue-haired snake that she is. Sarah sounds like some alternate universe body-swapped David Duke. But this is the kind of person that Wizards of the Coast wants working on their flagship releases, just like all the others. I'll continue to follow the racism that comes out of the employees and contractors of Wizards of the Coast. I don't believe this is all of them, not by a long shot. And by the way, be honest in calling what these people say as racist. If anyone else had substituted the word black for white in any one of those tweets, they would be keel-hauled on Twitter or Facebook and probably canceled in real life. They don't get to redefine things for their own perverse beliefs, their own hateful ideology. Call these statements what they are. They are racist. The more you do it, the more they will eventually have to address it. They will mock you at first, then they will get angry. But just keep doing it. Call them out. Do not let them vilify you. Do not let them vilify your fathers, your husbands, your sons, your friends. These are people with I would say, a dark stain on their soul. And maybe when continually confronted, they will change their ways. Now, as much as I'd like you to subscribe to the channel and like this video, I would just as well prefer that you share this video out there. Maybe you have a D&D player out there that you know who maybe doesn't do social media. Send them the link to this video and show them the casual racism and misandry of the people producing material for Wizards of the Coast these days. It may be eye-opening for them. You never know. Well, that is all for now. You guys have a great, great rest of the day, and I promise we will talk very soon.
White dudes in a basement, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so it's, in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough.